This episode of Laying Down the Law is brought to you by another podcast, Improv Beat by Beat, hosted by Curtis Retherford, and also the Beanball podcast with Joey and Brady, hosted by Joey Price. Welcome to Laying Down the law and comedy podcast that's an afternoon pick-me-up, where we pour the hottest legal cases ever brewed over the icy irony brought by today's coolest improvisers. Then we improvise a completely made-up scene or scenes to shake and stir it up. And then in the third act, we completely mix our metaphors around with the sweet, creamy truth of honesty so we can find out what it actually means to be human. I'd like to introduce my guests, both of whom are alumni of UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade. They are improvisers, podcasters, and I'd like to say new friends. First, he's a writer and actor who got his start in San Francisco, California, before packing up his bags and heading to Brooklyn, New York. Became a star on several Herald teams at the Upright Citizens Brigade. He became a performer and writer in the long-running UCB show, everyone's favorite game show, and also produced and directed the public access TV show Deep Space Live. He's the host of the podcast, The Beanball, with Joey and Brady, and best of all, he's a dog lover. Welcome to the podcast for the first time, and I hope it's not the last, the brilliant Mr. Joey Price.
Hello. Thank you, Billy. Thank you for having me. Great to be here. Thank you for letting me sponsor this podcast.
Oh, you're very welcome. For no payment whatsoever.
Yeah, pretty big get.
It is big. Next, he's a writer, improviser, and host of the podcast Improv Beat by Beat. His writing may be found on McSweeney's and elsewhere by Googling his name, including on Twitter, where he puts the Roblog in microblogging. Welcome, my third guest host, asterisk, second time is currently stuck in post-production limbo, the one and only at actually Curtis Retherford.
Hello. Also happy to be sponsoring this podcast.
Yes, it's podcast for podcast. I don't know. Before we go to our case of the week, well, let's hear a few words from our podcast sponsors. Joey, why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Oh, sure. I host a podcast called The Beanball with Joey and Brady. It's hosted by me and a fellow comedy person, improviser, Brady O'Callahan, and it's about baseball. We talk about baseball. I guess it's comedy adjacent because we like to think that we're funny and we like to think that the friends that we have on are funny. But I would say it is baseball forward first and foremost.
Oh, that's great. Baseball first, funny second.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Curtis, why don't you tell us a little bit about Improv Beat by Beat?
Well, Improv Beat by Beat is not about baseball, and I think this
which is confusing. I think
it is very confusing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, this is a great time to point out Joey has never had me on his podcast, despite the fact that I've said I know very little about baseball and could add nothing to the conversation. And still, he has said, "Nope, sorry, we have people who know things about baseball." So I don't know. That seems like something that could be resolved. Right, your congressman. Improv Beat by Beat is about improv. We break down different ideas in improv and kind of talk about that through interviews with many different improvisers. And since the pandemic, there's been one new episode when UCB New York shut down, and that was it. So we'll see as things come back. It will probably, hopefully, renew like the Phoenix.
And I'll say that despite me telling Curtis that I know nothing about improv, he has had me on that podcast. So yeah. I do kind of owe it to him.
At the end of every episode. And now to Joey, and it's just the sound of Joey shrugging. It's the audible sound of a shrug.
On this show, it is also comedy adjacent. I like to call it edutainment. And so I asked Joey, hey, what would you like to learn about? And he said, fraud. I said, good, because being that I have a severe case of imposter syndrome, fraud is my middle name. But I did go ahead and find a legal case about fraud. This is from a first year law school textbook, tort law, not the desserts, the unintentional injuries caused upon others, sometimes intentional. Fraud is an intentional tort. This case is Huffstetler versus State. The stakes in this case couldn't be higher. It involves 6.5 gallons of gasoline, worth $1.92. That just kind of sets the scene for it. The accused, Huffstetler, was convicted by the court without a jury on a charge of petite larceny, which is very, very small case of larceny. And it involved 6.5 gallons of gasoline that he stole from a service station. The defendant didn't testify or offer any evidence. There was one witness for the prosecution, and the full narrative is actually in the case. So, Joey, why don't you go ahead and read this excellent testimony?
My name is Porter Wharton. I live at Forney in Cherokee County, Alabama. I know the defendant, Thomas R. Huffstetler. I own and operate a store and service station at Forney, Alabama. On March 29th, 1952, the defendant drove an automobile up to my gasoline tanks. There were some 2 or 3 other men in the car with him, and a man in the back seat got out and started in the store and asked if I had a telephone. When I told him I did not have a phone, he said he wanted some gasoline and went back and got in the car. I asked him how much, and he said, "Fill it up." I put 6.5 gallons of gasoline in the car, and this man said to get a quart of oil, and when I went for the oil, the defendant drove off in the automobile together with the man who ordered the gas and the others in the car without paying for the gasoline. This 6.5 gallons of gas belonged to me and was of the value $1.94, and this occurred in Cherokee County, Alabama, and within 12 months before the commencement of this prosecution.
Excellent testimony by Mr. Porter Wharton. Pretty much put Mr. Huffstetler behind bars. The question here is, that was raised on appeal is Huffstetler said, well, I can't really be guilty of larceny because he gave me the gas. He voluntarily parted with the possession and ownership of the gasoline. And so that he raised this on appeal. And surprisingly, the Court of Appeal said, actually, no, that doesn't quite work. And the reason was that he obtained the gasoline by fraud. So it's if you fraudulently trick someone into giving you gas, the person is just giving you possession of the gas, not title. So you don't actually own the gasoline, and so you pay for it. And so that's larceny. And so they said it's an aid and abet kind of a theory. And if you secure the possession of something by trick or by fraud, that doesn't really get consent from the owner. And this all seems very obvious, which is probably why the case wasn't actually assigned in law school. It's just in the book, like in the back, like page 732 or whatever.
Under gas.
Yes,
Gas law is, I hear, a big,
It's highly profitable, actually, gas law.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you can make up words of $1.94 from it. So
yeah.
Well, to be fair, Curtis, in 1952, $1.94, you could buy a house with that much money.
That's true.
That's true. I love the specifics about this case, like the fact that it's 6.5 gallons of gas.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, you know, they have all these law school case briefs that are on the internet. They kind of summarize the case down. In earlier episodes, I'd read these whole cases and like the guests would be like, I'm falling asleep here. So I just like kind of shorten it down here. But one thing that really bothered me is they left out the extra half gallon, which matters, right?
Yeah, it's not nothing.
Yeah, that would have been like 8 cents difference, I think, or something.
Yeah, just about, yeah. I do like the testimony is just like, here's the facts. That, like, washing my hands with it. No further questions.
This is my name. This is where I live. You have everything.
Yeah. Well, interesting detail too is that the accused didn't even really offer any evidence at all. Like they just shows up and he's like, not guilty. Do you have an explanation? No.
So I feel like this is the kind of thing, though, that must have happened kind of a lot, right? Before they started asking, because now you have to pay for the gas, like as you're getting it, right? Or before you pump it. But I know it used to be that you would pump it and then pay for it, right? Like this kind of thing must have happened a lot when that was the case.
Oh, sure. And, you know, I think it's pretty clear, you know, if you really carefully, you know, listen to that testimony, the first thing it says is, do you have a phone? Why is that detail even in there?
Yeah. Like that was all part of the elaborate, like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to drive up. You ask him for a phone. You go to the bathroom. You wipe your hands slowly on a towel. We're going to distract him, you three, and then we'll get the gas.
And listen, I've done recon. He doesn't have a phone, okay? But it's going to psych him out.
Right. The fact that you're like, what, 4 friends in the car with him? 3. Yeah, there are 2 or 3 other men in the car with him. Yeah. Like, here's the plan, guys.
Yeah, also, it feels like it's just such a spur. It's just like, yeah, let's get the hell out of here. Like, we're going to steal this gas, and that's going to be it.
We have a car.
Yeah.
And they know each other. So this guy went to a gas station owned by a man who he knows him. He's like, oh, this guy Porter knows who I am. I'm going to go up and steal gas, drive off as if he's going to forget my face.
Just gonna get away with that.
Yeah.
I feel like, as one of the things about the old case, I always picture them kind of in black and white, like an old movie, and he's wearing the white, the white service station getup. It's kind of wiping his hands, like, how can I help you, gentlemen? I'll fill her up. And like we're taking careful notes of everything. Like, gotta remember there are 2 or 3 other people in the car.
It is surprising, the detail.
Yeah, there is a lot of, so just to be clear, the defendant drove an automobile. This was not a bicycle. He's driving an automobile to my gas tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other men in the car is such a fun detail of it. It's such a funny element of it.
You kind of wonder, like, what was the conversation in the car? Like, how much planning goes into a scam like that? And like, was there like maybe a debate beforehand? Like, okay, so what should we ask him for windshield wipers? What are things they have at a service station? Let's see, they've got gas, oil, Coca-Cola.
We need a reason to go in, and it can't be just to ask for the gasoline.
Yeah.
Right. What else? What do they have down at Porter Wharton's gas station? Good humor bars, tires. I don't know. And it's just like they didn't have, the whiteboards there, but you can, they're kind of like on a blackboard. They're kind of, okay. And then we leave, we should drive down the road, right? Or
we could go back the way we came from.
Yeah. I guess it really doesn't matter.
We have a car.
And he knows he knows how to find us. So maybe we drive in circles around the gas station just to throw him off and then drive home.
Yeah. And I just imagine Porter Wharton, running in the middle of the street, stop thieves.
But also, Porter Wharton then immediately was like, okay, let me write this down. It was 6.5 gallons of gas. It was $1.94 worth. Like he immediately decided, I have to take notes. People are going to need to know about this injustice.
Well, the thing is, if you live your whole life with a name like Porter Wharton, that's not like, Tom Jones or Dick Tracy or, other forgettable names like that. There, it's Porter Wharton. He's a front of the class kind of guy. Mm-hmm. He's a show up 5 minutes before the bell rings with an apple in his hand kind of guy. Porter Wharton is the kind of guy who, when it comes to running for mayor, he says, no. I'll be appointed dog catcher later. He says he's wielding his influence in the back end of City Hall in Cherokee County.
How much? I just looked this up. How much money do you guys think $1.94 in 1952 money is today?
You have the internet in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a game, right?
Okay.
Or we're supposed to guess, and we're not allowed to use the internet.
You're not allowed to use the internet. Okay. I know the answer. I looked it up.
Okay.
We're on a Zoom call, so I went, okay, well, I'm going to look this up.
I'm going to guess, based off the price of gasoline, $25.
Yeah. 6.5 gallon. Well, in today's dollars, 6.5 gallons would be $5. $132.
Wow.
That's very close. It's $19.07.
Oh, see, Curtis on the Price is Right rules. Curtis went the highest, got the closest without going over.
Yeah.
I was neither close nor under.
It's another fact frequently cited in torts of the neither close nor under.
Yeah. So I would say that was worth it for him, right? The $19.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And what are the other crimes that they're trying in Forney of Cherokee County, Alabama? And what other kinds of? I mean, is it? I guess they just don't have a very busy DA.
Yeah.
It is weird that of everything Porter remembers, there were 2 or 3 people in the back. Like he counts the price of the gas, he like everything within his I know he asked first for the phone, then he asked for this type of oil. He knows everything within his little kingdom of gas, but he's not like, maybe there were 2 people, maybe it was 3 people, maybe it was 2 people and a dummy. I don't know. I didn't really look closely.
Right. So one of those could have been one of those clown cars. There were many people inside. They were shadowy figures. Is Forney still a place?
I can't imagine much is going on if this is a trial.
Yeah, it's still an unincorporated community. It has a very short Wikipedia article. A post office was established in 1878 and remained in operation until 1936. The community was named for P. Forney, who kept a store there.
Well, it's a good thing he didn't steal from Forney.
Yeah. So in the town of Forney, apparently we have 5 or 6 residents. We have a postmaster. We have P. Forney, operator of the store.
Mm-hmm.
We have Porter Wharton and Thomas Huffstetler and 2 or 3 other people.
Who might not be residents for all we know.
They could be.
But likely 2 or 3 other people. So big town.
That's what it is.
All right.
Well, have you learned anything about fraud is what I want to know.
Yeah, big time. I've learned that here's what I've learned. I've learned that if you steal something, you might get in trouble for it. And that's fraud.
To be fair, I actually didn't get this out of the torts law textbook. I got it out of the criminal law textbook. And the reason was the fraud cases in the tort law textbook were really, really long.
Mm-hmm.
And, they have like multi-part tests, and it's like, we would have to get into a discussion of scienter, which is the fraudulent intent. And I just, I was thinking,
don't get us started.
Scienter. I thought,
that's why we have a separate Scienter podcast that Joe and I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will find a way for that podcast to sponsor your next episode.
The
Scienter podcast.
Yeah.
And so wait, just to clarify, so ultimately it's fraud because he was pretending he was going to pay for gas.
Yes.
So fraud.
Well, the reason this is such an interesting case that it ends up in a case law textbook 75 years later or whatever is this issue of whether it's stealing when the person voluntarily put the gas into your car. And his argument was, it's kind of clever. Like, it's like, he walks into the attorney's office. He's like, yeah, I just got convicted of larceny. I didn't present any evidence at all. I didn't testify and I want to appeal. And the lawyer's like, well, now hold on a second. Is this in Forney? Oh, it is in Forney. And did Porter Wharton, did he put the gas in your car? Okay, but here's what we're going to do. This is how the lawyer thinks. We're going to argue that he voluntarily put the gas in your car. So it's not stealing because you didn't secure possession. You didn't take the gas yourself. He put the gas in your car, but you tricked him. Right. But that's not larceny. You don't have the requisite intent.
Yeah, it feels like a real, they're trying for the letter of the law, not the intent.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the kind of case where you want to get your fees up front.
Sure. If you don't and you're that lawyer, what did you expect?
Yeah, exactly. That's no Atticus Finch right there. That's Atticus's, cousin. He's like, okay, let's see. Well, the year's 1952. $1.52 is $19. I'll take your case for $12. That's $300 in $1952 or something like that. And we'll just say, we'll see what happens. I'm free that day.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Excuse me, sir. Could you step this way? Could you step away from the cheese plate?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, these are free samples if you plan on buying cheese. This is for people with the intent of eventually buying cheese. Do you have any intent of buying cheese? It looks like no.
I guess I was thinking I would try the cheese and then I might figure out if my intent is to buy the cheese, because I'd like to know if I like the cheese before I know what my intention is.
Yeah, that's not what that's a different type of cheese plate. Okay, this is the cheese plate of you're going to buy a cheese.
Okay.
You're testing which cheese. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm looking at your shopping cart here. You got no crackers. You got no little bits of salami. You got nothing to eat with this cheese here. You're not intending to buy cheese.
I'm sorry. I just, you walk by a free sample place at a grocery store. You kind of don't think that it's that big of a deal to take a piece of cheese. I saw the lady in front of me took a piece, so I thought
take. He says to take a piece of cheese.
Take. Okay.
Not to be gifted. Had you been gifted a piece of cheese, that would be different. I wouldn't have to arrest you right now, which is what I'm eventually going to do.
You're going to arrest me for this?
Trey, are you giving customers? First of all, do you have toothpicks in the cheese? Trey.
There's toothpicks in the cheese, of course.
All right.
Of course there's.
Now, Trey, I just want to direct your attention to the sign here that says free samples. Trey. Mm-hmm. Okay. I see that you put the free sample sign behind the counter. Sure. This is the fourth time this week that this has happened. The stringent enforcement of cheese rules here.
Look, I'm doing two jobs, okay? I'm a cop and I give out cheese, okay? And I'm really trying to do a double duty here, okay? Look, if you see on the back of the free cheese sign, I wrote free cheese, but free as in freedom, not free as in price.
Oh, right. Oh, I stand corrected. I do proceed.
Thank you very much. Anyways, that was my boss. He's a real good guy. Way better than the chief.
I won't. You don't need to arrest me. I won't try the cheese. Okay, I'll just get out of your way here. I didn't mean to cause any trouble or anything. All right, but I just think be a little bit more clear about it, I suppose.
Oh, hi, sweetheart. Let me help you with those groceries. Oh, okay. I see here you got popsicles and you got yogurt.
Yep.
Now, where are the crackers?
Oh, well, I didn't have the intention to buy cheese, and so I actually wasn't allowed to.
Well, your mother's going to be here in about an hour.
Yeah. The problem is that when I walked into the store, I wasn't thinking I might buy cheese. I intend to buy cheese in here. It was more of a possibly spur of the moment decision. And so because of that and kind of the laws of the grocery store, I'm cheeseless. I'm crackerless.
Well, nobody said anything about cheese, sweetie. You know how my mother feels about crackers. She's very passionate about having appropriate amounts of crackers when they come over.
I'm sorry, honey. Hello, I'm here early, and my mouth is so damp. Do you have anything that'll take away some of the damp in my?
Oh, hi, Mom.
Like a cow. Hello. Like
Don't ever knock before you come in. We might have been doing anything at all in the world, Mom, but sure, come on. We're going to take care of your damp mouth, Mama.
Hey, Lisa,
don't you
great
worry.
To see you.
Of course. Good to see you, too.
Yeah.
Let me just go. I'm going to go to the kitchen and dry out some bread. You have an uncomfortable conversation. Yes.
Lisa, listen, Lisa.
Yes.
I forgot the crackers. Okay. I didn't get the crackers. I blew it. All right, I went to the store. I didn't get the freaking crackers, and I blew it.
You didn't follow the laws of the grocery store, did you?
I not only that, I broke. Yeah, you could say I broke the laws of the grocery store.
Is my son-in-law a scofflaw?
I wouldn't say I'm a scofflaw. I would say that I made a one-time error in judgment.
You know who else said that? Lee Harvey Oswald.
Okay. Hey, Mom. Okay. So I wasn't able to find any bread, but I do have some really dry leftover turkey. So I just kind of cut that up, and I hope that will help you with, satisfy the excess saliva.
That'll do.
Honey, I know that you didn't love that turkey I made the other night, but I don't love that you talk about to everybody how dry it is.
Well, it's not everybody. It's my mother.
Yeah, but you've been saying this to a lot of, I've heard you on the phone. Okay.
Are we about to have a fight in front of my mother again this week?
We don't have to, but I'm just, please.
Oh no, this is happening right now. This is
right.
happening right now.
Well,
you
don't
always
talk about my turkey like that.
You turn everything around. If you had just done what you promised to do, I wrote you a list with one item on it: crackers. You come back from the store with the whole story about cheese and samples and scofflaws.
I know.
I have no idea who I'm even married to.
I know. Well, I'm so in my head because of the turkey thing that's happening here that I get to the grocery store. I got turkey on my mind. Okay. I'm thinking that turkey was too dry. What can I do to make that turkey a little bit more moist? Yogurt. I don't know. Okay. But I'm freaking out.
You came back from the store with 3 items. You came back with popsicles, yogurt, and turkey. I sent you for crackers.
Well, I know. Okay. And I understand how I'm the bad guy here in this instance, and I'm sorry about that. But for the love of God, stop talking about my dry turkey with your friends.
Well, if you would just listen to me, I could talk to you about my feelings, but you don't listen. You're so caught up in your own arrogance and your own self-righteous entitlement that you can't even take one slightest bit of correction.
I'm sorry to interrupt you two fighting, but I have to say I've been eating this turkey. It's not dry enough.
Why are you taking his side, Mom?
All right, boys. This job should be easy enough. Okay? We walk into the bank. We ask them, are there a bunch of things that can we borrow a stapler? Can we borrow some paper clips? Can we borrow a pen? We kind of really talk their ear off about the different kinds of things that we could borrow. And then we kind of wear them down, okay? And then once they're worn down a little bit, we take the vault. Sound good?
Any of these things we're asking them to borrow, these aren't like far away things from the vault, right? We're not like, because we could try to distract, like, hey, can I borrow a milkshake? Go across the street and get me a milkshake or something?
No, these are all things that they should have readily available within arm's reach. And again, this is just kind of to wear them down a little bit.
Guys, I have a process suggestion. I understand we're brainstorming right now. We're kind of all throwing out ideas, but I feel like maybe if we could all just do maybe a little bit more listening, and we could all kind of like just let each other get kind of all of our ideas out and just kind of like maybe put it up on on a board or something, and maybe draw circles around them so that we could come to a consensus. Because I kind of feel like one person sort of driving the show and kind of like spelling out what we should all do. And maybe like we should try to have like some consent and some agreement, because this is a group plan. And I'm just saying, like, staplers and like going across the street for a milkshake, those are good ideas. They could be the best ideas, but I just feel like I haven't really had any input.
Yeah, of course. We're all here in this gang for different reasons, right? We got Joey Big Brains, because Joey, you're the big brains, right? We got me. We got I'm Guns, because I own a couple guns, right?
Yep.
And of course, we've got Johnny Flowchart. And Johnny Flowchart, I know you want to do your thing, okay? But I feel like maybe we'll pass the flow chart and more into the how are we going to wear down these bank robbers?
Yeah, we got...
Not bank robbers, the bank tellers.
Right.
I'm sorry. I have guns. I'm not the ideal guy.
You're not... Yeah, that's me,
Yeah, I'd say, that's
Listen,
how it happens.
I value your input, okay? Mr. Flowchart, but really, if I'm going to be honest with you, the reason that you're here is that you're a good driver, okay? And you got a car, and we don't have a car, okay? So that's kind of what we want your main focus to be here, driving up, staying in. We'd love it if you stayed in the car, yes. Okay? And then we get back in, and then you drive away.
That might be the best idea. I'm not saying it's not the best idea. I'm not saying it is the best idea. I'm just saying that with the three of us here together, possibly four of us here together, I'm not really sure. We haven't even taken roll.
It's either 3 or 4.
It could be 3. It could be 4. But what I just want to say is I feel like we're rushing to the decision. It's just sort of been presupposed that not just, like, for example, thinking out of the box, we could maybe put up names on the board and decide who should drive. Sure, we agree. I'll agree. We can all come to agreement that I have a car. But we just sort of assumed just because I have the car. And are we challenging our assumptions?
Okay. Yeah. I got your note about turning the gang into a commune. And it's not that I don't like it. Okay.
I appreciate that.
But I just think that's maybe a conversation. It's maybe just a little bit short-sighted, I suppose. We're kind of the big day's tomorrow, right? We gotta kind of do this, and then we can kind of talk about the different ways that we can balance each other out going forward. But time is of the essence.
Well, right, I understand. But your theory of change, you see, it's not that you don't like it, but it's that you reject it outright. And I think that if we're going to persuade people, for example, when you want to persuade somebody, if you wanted to persuade me, for example, ask me the criteria upon which I'm basing my decision.
He's drawn a flow chart.
Okay, all right.
If there's going to be a decision made, who are the deciders?
Flowchart, are you doing to us what we're about to do tomorrow to the bank tellers? Are you wearing us down with questions until we give you the gang?
We cut to the bank.
Next. Yep.
So I would like to discuss with you the process by which you accept deposits and run safe deposit boxes. Now, it's taken as an assumption that you as a teller, that it's your role to both accept money, to give people their money out of their accounts, and also to help people into safe deposit boxes. Now, let me suggest a couple of things that are questionable about those assumptions. Now, I'm not asking to do a McKinsey.
Oh, sorry, bank's closing.
And we see that all of the money is gone.
Oh, damn it. Again. Jeez. Okay, hold on. I'm going to call. Hello, police?
Yeah, this is the police.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We just got robbed. It was...
Okay, well, hold on. Did you get robbed? Or did you give it to the person possibly willingly?
Well, sorry, they asked me so many questions. And at one point they asked, could we hold the money? And I'm realizing now I didn't specify how long they could hold the money for.
Okay, yeah, this is a problem. We can't necessarily do much about this, if depending on if the possession of that property was fraudulently obtained or not.
Wait, do you just talk yourself out of every single crime that gets called in?
Yeah, I gotta get going. Someone's on the other line.
Hello, police.
Yeah, this is the police.
Help! I'm being stabbed.
Okay, well, who had the knife first?
I think it was my knife. The guy punched me.
Boy.
Oh boy, please help.
Oh, this is kind of a tough one here because if it was your knife first, the other person could kind of be acting in self-defense here, and
I didn't pull it out. It was a knife that I owned. I'm a Cutco salesman. It was a knife in my trunk.
Oh, so you're on their property? Ooh, boy. I don't know about this one. This is tough.
Hello, police.
This is the police.
I'm down at 4th and Central. There's been a huge truck fire. Someone came and just lit a tanker on fire, and it set a building on fire, and the vandals are
Sounds
stealing.
like a fire department issue to me. I'm the police department.
But people are looting the store. They're literally taking Louis Vuitton bags out the front door while it's burning.
Where did you say you are? 4th
and Central.
No, I'm on 3rd and Main. It's kind of out of my jurisdiction a little bit. I'm not sure I could go 2 blocks over, 1 block up like that.
My arm is catching on fire.
Okay, well I can patch you through to the fire department for this.
Hello, fire department. Yeah.
My arm's on fire, and there's a truck tanker that's on fire, and people are looting the Louis Vuitton store. They're taking out bags, and they're
looting.
running.
Hold on, looting. That's a problem for the cops. I'm sorry. I'm going to transfer you over to the cops.
This is the cops.
Such an informal way of answering the phone.
What can I say?
Listen, my arm's on fire. My leg's on fire.
Oh,
there are people running out of now they're going out of the Converse store, and they're stealing really cool shoes, and they're taking, and there's actually a crowd gathering, and apparently there's also protesters. I don't know. It's very confusing.
Sir, you're under arrest for wasting my time.
Oh.
Yes, I'm sorry. I would just like to make a brief statement about what happened on the night of the 17th when I tripped and fell. I live, again, in Cherokee County, Alabama. Now, I tripped and fell, and I hit my head, and I believe that it's your store that's the problem, because me, as a person who lives here in Cherokee, Alabama.
Okay, and this is my problem because you were outside of my store. Is that right? And you listen. You remember the details very well of this, okay? But I think that you've just unfortunately kind of come to the wrong conclusion here. Okay. I do remember that night. You were outside my store. And I'm sorry that you fell like that. All right. We helped you up. We got you a little bandaged up. Yeah, and again, details are great. I love the way that you told the story. Right. But yeah.
So, just to be clear, on that cold, starless night, with Sagittarius rising in the east, I trip, I fall, I scuff myself, I yelp, and I hear it reverberate across the street. And what do? Do you fix the sidewalk that tripped me? You gave me a Band-Aid, a compress, and that's it.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with the sidewalk here. You know, there's no, I mean, and like, again, a beautiful tale. Okay. You're a wonderful yarn that you weave there, but you know, I'll give you a free bottle of water. We call it a day.
I'll take the bottle of water.
Okay.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Moth Storytelling Workshop. In this workshop, we're going to teach you how to take out the unimportant details and learn how to emphasize the important details in order to be featured on a future episode of the Moth radio show. You'll notice that my voice is not moth-worthy. This is because I have a severe nasal congestion problem, but they said that I could teach. You know what they say, if you can't do it, teach it. So let's start, first of all, with details. It's always important to remember details in great detail. That's why they're called details. However, when does a detail get in the way of the main story. You there in
I'm
the
sorry,
front. Yes.
sorry. Can I take this bottle of water?
Absolutely.
Boom! I've now made 2 bottles of water as a storyteller.
You've probably made more money than any other storyteller in history. That's a storyteller joke. Inside, not everybody gets it. You there in the back, you look like the kind of fellow that has a real tale to tell. That scar across your face. Is that why you're here, to tell a story about how you got that scar?
Yeah, I was selling knives door to door.
So this is a great example, class, about you want to start your story with the bang. You always want to have your story ready to go. You don't know if you're going to have 10 seconds to tell it or 10 hours to tell it. So
sorry, teacher, just a quick question. It feels real uncomfortable if you just like point at us and say what you think our story's gonna be.
I do think you kind of got lucky with me on that one, but it could have gone a bad way for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's a great point. Appreciate the feedback. We're all here to learn. You there in the back with the long red hair. Was your story about your long red hair, young lady?
No, my story is about how I became the youngest CEO of ExxonMobil.
What would the story be about her long red hair? What possibly?
Now, you got to understand something. As I said at the outset, I'm the teacher and you're the students. That means I automatically know more.
Okay.
What
is that? Yeah, all of your stories are about your kind of nasally voice, which you kind of did mention right away when you're introducing the class. And I've seen you perform a few times, and they kind of all do revolve around that.
Oh yeah, you remember the story about my second grade teacher? That's a classic. I love to tell that in the workshops. They don't let me tell it on the air because it kind of tends to meander a lot into Becky Simpson's background and her history and how her mother would let me come over to play because she didn't like the way I talked, and then I wanted to take a turn on the swing. I'm getting lost in the details, but that's one of the things is that when you're a storyteller, you want to be extremely detailed. Do you see what I'm saying, class?
Teacher, I have a story I'd like to tell. I came here to find structure for the story that I believe it's my life's work to tell on the Moth.
I'd love to hear this.
The floor is yours.
There I was, one day, pumping gas. And the man came in and said, "Can I use your phone?" And I said, "Phone? I don't have a phone. I can get you an oil can."
Wow, this story's amazing. Wow, I can't believe this story.
So it's the best story I've ever heard.
Wow, this is unbelievable.
And that's the story of the man who asked for a phone to use.
And this has been the Moth Radio Hour All-Stars series with some of the greatest stories from some of the greatest Moth episodes of all time. That gas station story has captivated hundreds of listeners and thousands of different locations across the country, and we have literally millions of downloads. Tune in next week for the next Moth Radio Hour, in which our theme will be cheese.
Hey, great episode today of that. I think it was a really, really good one. Everyone, all the editors for the Moth, everyone that worked on today's show, just a real pat in the back for all of you. Really, really good work. I have some concerns about next week's episode about cheese, and it kind of has to do with intent. Okay? What's the intent of this story, right? Is the intent of the story to get people to buy cheese? Then okay, we can play it. Okay, but if that's not the intent, then I don't think that we should be just giving that out to our audience.
Welcome back to the Moth Storytelling Podcast. Tonight's episode is sponsored by the Intent to Buy Cheese. Hey, are you thinking about buying cheese? Then you're thinking about us. We're the Intent to Buy Dairy Council. And yes, the meetings at our company are long and confusing because we don't, to be clear, sell cheese. We don't make money off of cheese. We are unaffiliated with the dairy industry, but we are affiliated with the intent to buy dairy or dairy products. Sorry, there's so much explanation of what our council is in the sponsorship, but we just find it helps to get a lot of this information out up front. The producer is making a cutting motion across his neck. I think that means I should talk more about the intent of buying cheese. You know, if you walk into a store, a lot of people just walk into stores and they think, well, I can just grab things. I can put it in my cart. But until you've paid for those things, you're technically a thief.
And that's the episode. Time is up. Right there, we do that was 60 minutes.
Guys, it's been a real roller coaster. We've had our best episode ever, and then our lowest rating episode, we had negative 100 listeners.
Yeah.
People started watching and returned our podcast to iTunes. Do
you think we should?
It was like the U2 album. It was the U2 album of podcasts. Yeah.
Right. Do you think we should cancel the next week's episode on it's sponsored by Hopes and Prayers? You know, the thing that everybody sends in cases of catastrophe, gun violence, the Hopes and Prayers, Thoughts and Prayers company. It seems like very esoteric sponsors.
It's true. I've been working on it and I'm halfway there.
Well, my thoughts and prayers are with you on finishing it. But I do think that we are kind of losing some things here, some listeners. And I do have a whiteboard with a bunch of different kind of flow chart options that we could be looking into doing in the future.
That's awesome. I love process. I love process. If there's one thing that gets me excited in the morning, it's process, talking about esoteric ideas, taking us into a land of a podcast.
Yeah, and Jim, I actually forgot that you were in the room. I thought you were just kind of the bus driver for the Moth. I didn't realize that you're going to be here for this. But great to have you on board.
Absolutely.
Please proceed. I love when
we cut to the Moth bus. Excuse me, does this bus go down to 4th and Main?
No, this kind of just goes from Moth venue to Moth venue. Yeah, this it is a public bus. You can hop on, but we're just kind of taking this one to wherever the next Moth story hour is.
I've been on this bus for 3 days. I have no idea where I am, but boy, is it sure interesting. A lot of detail. Come on in.
Okay. I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Just sit down here next to.
I'm pleased to meet your acquaintance.
Yep, nice to meet you as well. It looks like that's 4th and Main. We're going by it.
Oh yeah, the next stop is 3rd Street and 2nd Avenue in New York City.
That's my God.
Our next the next place that we're going to be going here. It's where the next show is.
400 miles from here.
I got on in Topeka.
Great details, though, huh?
Absolutely. I never thought I could learn so much about toothpicks and the background behind them and how one toothpick could change someone's life. Fascinating.
And that video, that audio that you're listening to right now, that was taken from the bus. Now, of course, a lot of people are saying these people were kidnapped. They were kidnapped, they were taken away from their homes, but of course they got on the bus willingly. And if they were eventually driven to a Moth sweatshop where they had to work day in, day in and day out, 18 hours a day, coming up with stories for Moth storytelling, well, that's just what happens. They agreed to that. And therefore, you can't find my client guilty of kidnapping.
Boy, am I glad I paid you pre-trial, huh? You're crushing it out there. You're doing great. Thank you so much. I think I'm set. I think I'm free. So thank you.
I think it's actually up to the judge to say that, not.
Thank you. My lawyer just kind of seems like my lawyer acquitted me. So
well, I'll just tell you, as Judge Coltrane here, they always say a good lawyer knows the law, but a great lawyer knows Judge Coltrane. And I know you well. So let's go get ourselves some free cheese and set your client free. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously am very in favor of that because I'd love to be free. So thank you both.
But what about me? I was on a bus for 3 weeks.
And the credits roll.
Yeah. Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, that was good. That was fun.
Yeah. So the third bit I do is I like to, ask random questions. So I'm going to start with Joey. And this is a 2-part question to you, Joey. Part one is if you could travel to any time or place just to kind of experience it, assuming that you're not going to disturb the fabric of space-time, where and when would you go, and which vehicle would you choose? H.G. Wells' time machine, the DeLorean, Bill and Ted's phone booth, or another form of time traveling, hot tub. What's your mode of transportation, and where do you go?
Great. Okay, I like this. There's a lot of real possibilities here. I'm definitely curious about 1920s Paris. I would say if we're thinking not so far back in the future or back in the past, I would think that is maybe a pretty fun, interesting time to go to. Can you go into the future, or is this just the past?
It's your time machine. Take it where you like.
Boy. Yeah. The other thing would be, I guess I'm thinking within the last 100 years or within the next 100 years for me, for some reason, because I would be curious about maybe going 100 years from now too. So that it's probably, recognizable, but very different feeling. But I would be curious what the semi near future looks like in that regard. I would go with Bill and Ted's phone booth because I feel like when they travel, there's some fun that they get in the actual traveling part of it. You know what I mean? They're not just boom there. They have these weird space-time things too.
Tubes. The tubes.
The tubes. And I think that it'd probably be scary and probably wouldn't make you feel very good, but I think it could be fun to experience that.
I'm sorry, your answer is incorrect.
Oh, damn.
Damn. I'm just kidding. No, really? Are you kidding? No.
Damn.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. 1920s Paris. No 1920s more than
Paris. Yeah. I feel like that's just a very romantic time in my mind. Yeah. So
there's this whole you reminded me of this concept, future shock, that theoretically if you someone took someone 500 years into the future, their heads would explode because they'd have no frame of reference.
Sure.
So I think it was a wise choice not to go further than 100 years in the future, because your
would hate for my head to explode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to toss a question to Curtis. Hypothetically, if you could change something about yourself or something in your own life, what would it be?
There are, I don't know if this is quite the same, but there's a lot of stories that in my family that I kind of like missed out on, that like on my dad's side are his grandparents on both sides. For a long time they kind of had cut off communication with my grandma and grandpa, because my grandmother was Korean, my grandfather was white, and so they kind of both were like, nope, we don't want any part of that. And so I kind of missed all of those stories, and I missed a chance of kind of like finding out a lot about it until later. And so I wish when I was younger, I'd kind of gotten more from my grandfather and grandmother of like what their experience was like living in Korea and then here and all of that stuff. Because mostly it was, I just didn't get as much of that part. And I was just thinking the other day that I wish I had learned a lot more cooking from all of my grandparents. Like my grandfather was from Indiana, and he was real good at like making chili and smoking fish and all of this other stuff. My grandmother made, kimchi and japchae and all of this great food that I had to like relearn how to make later as an adult. And then on my mom's side, they were like farmers. And so it was a lot of like fried chicken and that kind of stuff, which is, easy enough to make, but it's like, oh, I wish I had learned how did they make these things. So yeah, I wish I'd learned. This is also very COVID specific, because having now spent a year making food constantly, I'm like, oh, I know how to make 5 things, I think, and I just do slight variations of those 5 things constantly. So I've been thinking a lot of how like I wish I had learned more of those recipes earlier.
Awesome. Your answer is also incorrect.
Oh, damn. Damn. Sorry, Curtis.
I don't think
I
that's
should have said 1920s Paris.
I know.
And I should have said Curtis's grandparents' food.
Yeah.
I should have read more
Yeah.
interviewing books. Actually, I don't think it's a good idea to ask your guests questions and tell them they got it wrong. Probably a bad idea. Hold on, let me just see if I can Google that. Oh, it says $19.
It says don't do that.
Oh, okay.
$19.
Oh, $19. Okay.
Okay.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
it is a
good.
lot
That's
of money.
pretty good. Yeah.
I'd steal from somebody I know for that.
All right, I'm going to ask Joey is if you could imagine like an invention that would have really impacted your life in a positive way, like something that doesn't exist, like I don't know, like in the Jetsons, they have the bed that like tilts you into the shower directly, or something like that would have really been great. What would it be?
Yeah, the thing that I want the most, and this was definitely the case, like in New York City when you're like commuting on the subway, and like 4 years ago the subway was like a pretty big pain in the ass to use for a while and things like that. I always thought like, well, I don't want like, I feel like teleportation's too much to ask to just like teleport anywhere in the world. What I want to be able to teleport. If I can see the thing, then I can I can just be there. I can be at the thing that I can see.
Limited teleportation.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to be able to see it. And if you can see it and you want to go there, you're there.
Boom.
I used to live, when I lived in Astoria, you could like see the Astoria Boulevard and Ditmore's thing. They're above ground. And there were many times where I'd like be walking down, I'd be 3 blocks away from the train. I'd see it pull up and I'd think, if I could teleport on that train, and then I'd think, why am I limiting in my wish fantasy?
I know.
To like, I wish I could slightly more effectively take public transportation, which is still not funded in this fantasy. It's still underfunded, and I know I will wait 20 minutes. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who has very minor.
Yeah, it would just kind of, it's like, oh, I have a view of Manhattan from my place, and it's like, oh, it'd be great just to like be there already. I just want to already be at that place. So it'd be that.
Yeah.
I hope that answer was right. I hope that answer was right.
That was a great answer. That was an awesome answer.
Can I throw out an answer to that?
Yes, please.
I wish cars were a little bit faster, like 10% faster. That's the invention I want, like 10% faster cars.
That's good.
Also the limited improvements, like just the marginal thing.
Speed limit is still the same.
Yeah. just 10% faster.
But you just end up getting places a little bit faster.
Just a little, yeah. How about this one, Curtis? I don't know if I asked you this when you were on before, but it's one of my favorites. Is if you were you're able to choose your superpower. You're like it's the I don't know, the X-Men or whatever. It's going to be assigned to you, and you can choose whichever one. What would it be?
Teleporting to subways. I do think like teleporting is the coolest of all powers, because it kind of like, hey, what do you need to fly for? You can teleport a whole bunch or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Probably that. Although also I grew up reading a lot of Spider-Man, and I think, but that's a lot of powers. I guess is if the question is like which one power, I guess every superhero is like 5 powers. So I just have enough power to not be a superhero, but I have 1 superpower, to be clear.
That was the hypo, but yeah, so who cares? It's a podcast. Say whatever you want.
Sure. Yeah, I think teleportation. I also think, I realize I'm now just stealing from the questions that Joey was asked, but I think time travel would be cool if you could time travel and watch things without worrying about the like changing them or anything like that. Like if you just like teleported and you were receiving light, you were receiving information, but you didn't have to worry about like, well, whoops, I just shot Lincoln. Oh well. But you can just like see what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of like the time travel thing really interests me because every time you see a movie with time travel or read a book with time travel, there's just certain things you can't. There's always going to be a problem. You can't, because it's impossible to think through all the different things that one little thing changes, and so you really have to suspend a lot of disbelief. To go with a time travel story.
I now know my superpower. My superpower would be, I know who is right in any situation. Like anything that happens, any disagreement, I can just say, no, you're wrong. She's right. And I not only know objectively who is right, but other people accept that statement. So like if you're on the subway and somebody's like blocking the door and somebody's like, hey, why are you blocking the door? And he goes, I'm not blocking the door. I could go, nope, you were blocking the door and that's wrong. And he would go, damn.
The power of arbitration.
Yes, exactly.
Oh cool. Man, that's like a whole other improv sketch. The arbitrator. Oh man, that is on point.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's fun, Curtis. Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's good. I like that superhero.
I've always liked the idea of like super speed as a power, but I'm also always worried that like you get really tired. Like
seems like a lot of effort.
Yeah, but I don't know. But maybe not. Maybe if that's like maybe it's just like normal.
Yeah, I always liked super speed. Like the Flash was one of my favorites because it felt like it's almost achievable. Like you're like, I'm pretty fast. I can be faster.
Close. I'm close.
Is there an upper limit?
But also, then are you just like eating all the time? Is it like people who are into CrossFit or The Rock or whatever, where it's just like, okay, for most of the day I sit down and I just eat cod. And then for like 15 minutes every day I can run nearly the speed of light.
Yeah. Pretty cool. That'd be worth it though.
That'd be worth it.
And all that cod.
All that cod. Yeah.
Oh, delicious. There's so many different ways to prepare it.
Yeah.
It's like I went to some restaurant. It's like it was describing cod, and it's like, cod. It's the blank slate of the food universe. And I'm like, that's not really a good argument in his favor. Like nobody goes to like Lackman. They're like, I love all these blank canvases. It really, it's like the painting's terrible, but the canvas they started with. All right, last question. What are you grateful for, or one thing that you're grateful for, Joey?
I'm grateful for, because I'm grateful for like the community of people that I know and that I have in my life who are like good people that I enjoy talking to. And even like this past year, like in any way that we could communicate with each other. And that also obviously includes like my wife and my family and things like that, of course. But just generally, like the people that I get to spend my time with and thinking about, I'm very like grateful to have people that I love amongst all that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I also liked it was actually a bit of a lawyerly answer because, you know, if you're like, when you're talking about people, you're like, oh, well, if I say I'm grateful for so-and-so, then I better make sure I'm covering everybody else.
Yeah, this was very all-encompassing.
It was smart because you went to,
very
you know,
diplomatic.
another layer of generality that made it safe. So, what was your wife's name again?
And I include Billy and Curtis. I include you within that.
Oh,
Phew.
I told you before we started recording, I do a podcast so I can make new friends.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah. That sounds a little sad when you say it out loud. But I'm really glad I met you. Curtis, I know I asked you this before, but you can give the same answer if you want. But what do you feel grateful for?
I feel like Joey's answer is pretty good. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Like, especially this year has made it very clear of like what is important and what is less important, and kind of just realizing the dip in energy that I have when I haven't talked to people outside of my apartment. Obviously, I love talking to my girlfriend. She's amazing, but sometimes, you know, it's been a year, seeing another human and talking to another human. I'm very grateful for all of the great people around me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm right now, I'm so looking forward to an improv class or something where it's like just, you know, something that's not work. And, you know, I have a great relationship with my family, but, you know, something that's, you know, different energy. It's something I have, you know, then I can go home and tell my family about, oh my God, the funniest thing happened in improv class today. So, but I'm glad that we could share this time together. Is there anything, can you guys just promote your podcast again in case people forgot, and anything else that you'd want our listeners to hear about?
Sure. My podcast is called The Beanball. You can find it anywhere. The Beanball, Joey and Brady. If you like baseball, even if you're mildly curious about baseball, it's worth a listen. We try to put, we call it the most exciting podcast about the most boring sport. So we're trying to have fun with it. And I'm on Twitter. I think I made my profile public again recently. Beardzoid, BeardZoid, Beardzoid.
Awesome. Thank you, Joey. And Curtis?
Improv Beat by Beat, which is at curtisrutherford.com/improv. That's RETHERFORD. And I'm on Twitter and elsewhere at Actually Curtis. And yeah.
I'm going to end with a public service announcement. I just want to give a shout out to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. That's 1-800-273-8255. If you're having a hard time or thinking about with depression or anxiety, and you're worried about, or if you're worried about a friend or a loved one, you just need emotional support, the Lifeline Network is available 24/7 across the United States. The number is 1-800-273-8255. The pandemic has been really hard on a lot of people. There is help, there is support, and you can talk to someone right now or anytime. It's available for everyone. It's free. It's confidential. The number is 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255. Thanks to my guests, Joey Price.
Thank you.
Curtis Retherford.
Thanks.
Laying Down the Law is a product of Beyond Unreasonable Doubt. It's produced by Jeffrey Feitner and Verboten Productions. Our music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punk. Our cover art is courtesy of The Mighty Q. I want to thank our listeners. If you're enjoying the show, please tell a friend, subscribe, call me up. You could be a guest. Who knows? Write a review, leave us a rating, 5 stars if you like. If you have an interest in sending fewer stars, don't. But if you're not that interested, I would be surprised if you're still listening. Please feel free to tweet at me at Max Headroom Esquire. That's an 80s reference. You can Google it if you're under the age of 40. With any questions, comments, or suggestions, I'm your host, Billy DeClercq, and I'm just a guy who cries at commercials every single day.